Hey everyone, and welcome back to CJRaceCars YouTube channel. Today we are over here at Jeffrey's 71 Demon. It's a super cool car. The same guy is the guy who owns the Willys, which is another cool car that we haven't had on the channel much. But both of them start to be on the channel a little bit more. The Willys, as we've talked about before, is waiting on an engine that we probably won't have till March of next year. So that's kind of why we haven't worked on it. It's pretty close to actually being done on the fab side. All the sheet metal's done, the floor's done, firewall's done. The engine that we did have for it, which is also a Hemi with a blower on it, is done. He decided to switch to a different engine, which we won't have till next year. So we haven't worked on this much, and the reason for that is he was deciding if he wanted to take the blower motor from the Willys and stick it in here, or stick small block Mopar that he had already for this in here. So originally this was going to be a small block Mopar, but he has decided as of yesterday that he wants to put the blower motor from the original Willys in here. So it's going to be a little crazier than we originally planned on. He was going to have a street car. We had widened the stock wheels a little bit. It's going to be a more stock appearing deal than it is now. Basically what we're going to do now is cut the whole front off of this car. It's going to have a strut front end. All the stock floor, stock firewall are still going to be in it. The back of the car we've already done. It has carbon tubs, Marty Mariolet 9-inch. It had a 6-point cage and all the 4-link stuff done already in the back. Some of that stuff we will have to move because now we're going to RC component rear wheels, bead locks, RC component spindle mount fronts, strut front end, and we're going to go to probably closer to a 10 or 12-point cage and some other stuff. It's going to be a street car only. He's not planning on racing it, but it will be capable of racing if he wanted to. Really cool build. Troy's over here getting ready to cut out the front end, and so we can stick the engine and transmission in here. It's gonna have a Tremec 5-speed, which is also cool. You don't see many Tremec 5-speeds behind Blown Hemis, so be a pretty cool street car. A lot of work to be done, and we want to show you guys on the channel this. So we're gonna start on it now. Today's video is sponsored by Ridge. Trying to find the perfect gift this holiday season can be tough. Thanks to Ridge, they're making finding that gift a lot easier, with up to 47% off some of your favorite items on their website. Their slim front pocket wallet is one of my favorite things to carry every day. With a 12-card storage capacity and cash strap, I no longer have to carry around a big bulky wallet. I also love that it has RFID protection and is made out of quality materials like titanium, aluminum, and carbon fiber. They also offer the key case, which pairs perfectly with their wallet. It's made from the same quality materials and carries anywhere from 1 to 6 keys. And the best part is it makes having your keys on you easy without being a noisy, bulky distraction. Whether you're treating yourself, someone in your family, or a friend, Ridge deals make the perfect time to upgrade your everyday carry. Click the link in the description to get up to 47% off your favorite Ridge products today. Thank you, Ridge, for sponsoring today's video.
Yeah, I haven't dissected a Mopar in years. We're going to be reusing all this, so I got to be careful with it. Once I get all this sheet metal out of the way, everything underneath is going away. That should just pull off. Yeah. And there should be one on the other side. Hang on. Let me sneak under you. Okay, it should lift, just slide straight forward. All I'm gonna have is that body line between the door and the fender. So to set this height a little more accurately, I'll be able to measure off of that lip to here to make sure this is kind of where it needs to be. It's only got to be close. Not my first rodeo, home slice.
All right, I'm gonna show you how to do it.
We'll rewire that. He got it.
Yeah.
That's what happens when you go to the gym, huh?
I don't know. I haven't been in a while. Here, Troy.
Thank you, sir.
When you're ready for me to get the next one.
Yeah, I'll be all over that. They seam sealed that.
How would they do that?
I'll tell you what, it ain't never gonna rattle.
It's gonna hurt trying to take it apart.
Ain't never gonna move.
It's gonna come apart kind of like that wire did off that headlight. Similar to that.
That wire might have been easier.
Oh.
On a brighter note, I got the antenna already. I give them boys some credit. They definitely know how to assemble a car. Once again, going back to my comment, over restored. This car was never put together like this. Here, hang on. See if you can get that up in there a little bit. Don't pry on it too much, you don't want to bend it.
There's something holding it up there.
It's just stringies.
Not sure who glues the fender on, but I guess it would cut down on the rattling.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. No, I mean it's
Not ideal.
it's not a bad idea if you're restoring a car.
Yeah, and you don't ever plan on taking it back off.
Exactly. It's that taking it apart part that's
But taking it apart.
yeah.
Get it?
We got a little MSD ignition gimmick going. Little homemade weather stripping to keep the weather off it. Not a bad idea. So at this point we're probably going to we want to fit a Hemi in here. And Hemis don't fit so good with all that nonsense in the way. We're on a path of destruction. There's no turning back.
Oh gosh, the first scratch. Not very often you get to cut up a car that's this nice. And this week, Troy gets to cut up 2 cars that are this nice. This one and Cletus's car. But in all fairness, if you start with a car that's this nice, it makes the end car very nice. Just like Jeffrey's Willys. It started out nice and it sucks to cut them up, but at least you're not dealing with a pile of rust that's not square and needs a quarter panel and it's had a roof replaced and it's got a bunch of seams and Bondo and stuff in it. So
Yeah,
if you start with a car that's
nothing
nice,
worse.
you end with a car that's really nice. So
yeah, you start with a rust bucket. You're going to spend all them hours fixing and then still cut it apart.
I don't know if Troy knew that we were gonna have to cut this car up, or if it's just a coincidence that he happened to buy a brand new purple apron that almost matches the car. Was that a coincidence, or did you?
Oh, it's coincidence.
He literally comes in with his purple apron last week, and then Jeffrey makes his decision
got
a
it,
week
'cause
later
I
about
thought
using the
it-
engine, and now we got to cut the car up. And he's got his purple matching apron on.
I thought it went well with my eyes.
Yeah, it does. There you go.
What am I supposed to do with that?
There it is. There it is.
Your footing game.
Savages.
We could always put it back. No big deal. No big deal.
Savages. They're all savages.
All right, we're back over here at Jeffrey's Demon. And as you can see, we got the front end cut off. And then we started doing what we do best. We started having ideas of getting carried away. And it's very easy with a build like this because it was supposed to have a small block. Now it's going to have a big blown Hemi in it. What we kind of ran into is we're trying to get it low. And that's why we cut the front end off, and we're gonna do strut front end, give us some more room, be able to get the ride height down. In these Mopars, the structure down here hangs pretty far below the body or the rocker. So to get this thing 5 inches or so off the ground, which would look good or on a street car, maybe even 4.5, we'll see. It'll have adjustable strut cups, so it could go up and down with the ride height a little bit. But we have to cut all that out. So the next problem is, when we cut all that out, the Tremec is not gonna fit great in this here tunnel. So if you want to make the tunnel a little bit bigger. The problem you have then is trying to tie a nice tunnel into all this ribbed factory floor stuff is an issue. And the tunnel factory's moved offset, which our rear end is not offset. So we moved the tunnel, and then the next thing you have is the floor doesn't match the tunnel good, and now you want to cut the floor out. So we had to get with Jeffrey, and he had to think for a few days. And he pretty much said, do whatever is going to work best. So what we're going to do is, basically we're going to get the Sawzall back out. We're going to cut the entire floor out of this thing. So as you can see, things get carried away pretty quickly, but the last thing we want to do is kind of patch something together, and then at the very end of a very expensive build anyways, you realize for another couple weeks worth of labor, you would have had something that much better. So me and Jeffrey likes really nice stuff. He kind of lets us do what we think is best, and he is letting us cut the floor out. So as of right now, we're going to cut the floor out, and we're going to leave just the firewall. I surely hope that we don't have to cut the firewall out, because then at that point we have another Willys and he has a full chassis car. And that is not the goal with this car, and we're trying very hard not to get to that point. In the next day or so, we're going to chop this floor out of here. We're going to stick the motor in here and start jigging up some of the suspension, make sure we have room for everything, and I think we will. When he ordered the engine over there, which we'll show you in a second, he had a special intake built because the Willys is extremely tall, and we wanted a blower to stick up above the hood. So with the custom intake, I really think the carbon hat is probably going to stick up at least as high as the roof on this car, especially as low as we're getting the car. So it's going to look killer. It's going to be a really cool car, and you don't see many of them, and he will actually drive this thing on the street with a stick shift. So the back of this thing right now has pretty much like similar like a Mustang rear suspension. We used a Marty Marylet rear end with the Mustang upper brackets on it, Mustang lower brackets on it, and we used his universal torque boxes on the bottom and the top. And we basically built this structure here to hold all of that. We will probably brace it a little bit more now that it's going to have 2,000 horsepower instead of 800 horsepower. But I think we're going to stick with this suspension. We can pretty much cut this tack and raise it up now to get our ride height a little bit lower. And we may have to notch this frame rail. So definitely some differences from the small engine and the ride height we were going to have to the plan now, which this is the time to do it. You definitely don't want to build the entire car and then realize you wanted it lower and put a bigger engine in it, and you're cutting up a freshly painted car. Not ideal. We don't want to do that. We've cut up way too many freshly painted cars lately, and we're trying to keep that to a minimum. That's about it for this one. We're going to mate the engine and the transmission together soon as we get a bell housing, because originally the Tremec was supposed to go behind the other motor, so we're waiting on the bell housing. A lot of stuff going on. I think it's going to be a very cool build, and I'm glad he's making this change. I really like the Pro Street look with the spindle mount 17s in the front and the dual beadlock rear wheels and a real low stance. These cars have to sit good to look right, and I'm a big stickler on how they sit. So it's going to look a lot better in my opinion now, and it's going to be a really fast street car. This is the engine for the Demon. As you can see, it's extremely tall with the intake that they had made to push the blower up. It's a Hemi with a roots blower and a carbon fiber hat. This thing should make around 2,000 horsepower, maybe 2,500-ish. It has a water block, water head, so it's good for the street. And this is probably about 3 inches lower than it'll be at ride height. So when it's in the car, this will actually be up about this high, which, like I said, it's probably similar to the roof. This thing is absolutely huge height-wise, and it's huge width-wise, which is another reason we're going to a strut front end instead of the stock style K-member, because we would have zero room probably to fit this in. And if somehow we could shoehorn it in with the factory stuff, it'd be really tough to build headers that were big enough to let this thing breathe. We're going to mate the transmission with this at some point, probably later this week or next week whenever we get a bell housing, and see how it fits. Another thing with this thing being a street car, there's a lot of stuff we have to put up front, so we do need some room up here for radiator, fuel cell, if we're gonna run a fuel cell in the back. Not 100% sure on that yet, but we do need some room up here for all that other stuff, unlike if it was just a race car and it was not gonna be driven on the street. So we'll have to see how that goes. We have most of the parts for this car, and it should start to come together now that he has a plan on it. And then, probably about the time this is getting wrapped up, we'll have the engine for the Willys, and most of the fabrication stuff is done on the Willys, other than some small stuff once we get an engine. It needs headers, it needs exhaust, and it needs some final stuff. But that's gonna be a really cool build. This guy has some really cool stuff. Can't wait to get these two projects wrapped up and see him driving them on the street. All right, that's pretty much gonna do it for today's video. The next time you guys see the Demon, it'll probably have at least the engine and transmission mocked up in there so we can see what it looks like and get a better game plan moving forward for the chassis and everything else we got to do around it. Thanks again for watching. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.